one.
What's up, guys? We're going to do the review of the TRUFIRE SEAR release. We did a video online on YouTube to show how to shoot this, or how I shoot it. There's many different ways. This is their SEAR, not the SEAR X, which I do not have, but we are going to play with that one as well. So this is basically a hinge release, not a back tension. Truly a back tension, like we talked about in that video, is operated off of poundage on the bow. So on a I think we have a silverback actually down here as I reach over my deal. Yep, we do. So with the silverback, so basically you have adjustment screws. Basically you adjust it 2 pounds, 3 pounds over whatever you like, over the bow's holding weight, and this is your safety. So as you pull, take your thumb off safe, it'll break. There's no rotation, there's none of that. So this is built off rotation, and you can see with this head here how it'll rotate, and then that hook will open up, and that is how your release will fire. This thumb peg is only for thumb placement. There are 3 holes to fit whatever you like. Me personally, I like to run it in the farthest back hole because how it's set up is, it feels a lot like how the button is set up, and we'll talk a little bit about how to mirror those two together. But this is how I like to set one up, how you can adjust it with the tension or the SEAR and the moons on the head here itself. So we usually, with this one, we'll have a 3/64 Allen wrench, and we'll have a 16th Allen wrench. So first off, depending on how you like it and how I like it, I start mine off a lot colder to start, because with the new release you don't want to just pull it back halfway through and it fires, because traditionally with this type of release, when you draw back, you can see my exaggeration in my hand. It has to be tipped forward, because if I draw like this, there's the click. Like if I draw flat, see, it breaks. So I have to set this hook and set it so when I draw back, it's angled. You go through your click and it fires. So we'll go through that process here in a minute. This is how you adjust the moons. So first off, you're going to take your 16th Allen wrench, and there's an adjustment screw here and an adjustment screw right here. I usually back them out a 1/4 turn. So we'll go in here and we'll back it out a 1/4 turn. And this one, typically I never have to because it's already loose. And that will move your moons. So you can see that moves, okay? So that's your start. This screw right here, your 3/64, sorry the lighting in here is kind of bad, this will actually come out. So you'll unscrew this one completely, okay? Set that one aside there. There's a pin that goes right in that upper hole. Do not lose that pin. That is going to be your stop or your adjustment on how that head will rotate, hit your moon, and then fire. So that's basically the way it fires itself. So now, if you can see, we can actually rotate this head to different settings on that. There's little hash marks on there, and you should have them on this side. So there's little hash marks, okay? So there's 3, 2, 1, and then 0. Now I haven't fully set this up to no click. I have to look a little bit further. I'm not sure there is an option, but for what I like, the slowest click is going to be this one right here where it's 0. Okay, so that's going to be, it's going to take a lot longer to get to a click. So if you want to set it on, let's say this one right here with the three moons, and you can actually see there is a little SEAR edge right here. There's a little ledge right there, if you can see that. There's a little tiny ledge, and that's what that pin floats across, and then your hook catches on, and as you keep rotating, the hook falls off that ledge, and that is how the release fires. So let's say we want to set it up with the 3 moons there. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll leave it vertical, straight vertical with this post, parallel with that post, and we'll stick the pin back in this hole right here, if you can see that. You stick that pin back in that hole. Okay, so now we're going to lay it down and put our screw, which is going to cover that, back in the hole below it. So that screw just keeps that pin from falling out of the release head. That is what's going to lock the hook in its position where you want it. Now, you can see that it rotates, there's no click. There's nothing. It doesn't catch, doesn't do nothing. So now we need to go in and take our 16th and tighten these two set screws back down. Okay? So now we have a release that is going to fire a little bit faster. There's a decent click. See, that fired a little bit faster. So then you can actually go in and you can move this one way or the other. That cross, I like to call it the four-way moon. You can move that forward or back to get the amount of travel you want in your shot. So let's go back in and just loosen this set screw. Okay, now the head doesn't move. It moves, but now this only moves part way because that pin is stopping it. So now let's say we want it farther forward, which is going to slow it down. You just push that farther forward, tighten your set screw back down on this one here, tighten it back down, and now it's got a little bit different feel to it. So you just got to play with these and see which one you like. See, that's a really slow click for me. So that's the coldest it's ever going to be right there. So when you move it farther back from the release, when you move it towards your forefinger position, your forefinger where that's going to sit, it's going to be super cold. And the farther back you move it towards your other two fingers in your vertical neck, I like to call it, it's going to get hotter. So now let's adjust it back and we'll see what that does to our click. So let's put that farther back. Now you can see that I got more sticking up here and this head is tipped back on that. So now we'll set that. Now see that? Oh, that is too hot because now it doesn't want to grab. See that? So there is a point at which you cannot adjust it. See it, now the hook doesn't want to set, and there is a magnet in this head. So watch, you can go and it'll click. See, there is a magnet that holds the hook back, so when you fire it kind of theoretically should go back in the same spot. So let's loosen that up and move it back just a tick until it gets where we want it. There we go. Okay, so now we'll get this set. See, it's a little faster now. And then there's our fire. So, as long as I don't knock over my handy dandy radar. If you've ever worked in a small shop without much room, you know what I mean. Okay, so I don't break that because that's handy. So you could basically take your 16th Allen wrench, and I know it's black on black on black, but you can take your 16th Allen wrench in this slot. There's one here and there's one here, and that will move this back and forth. And the farther this way you have it, the hotter it is. The farther towards the thumb peg you have it, the colder it is. So now let's do this. Let's make it a little bit more of adjustment. So I'm gonna move the moon one more adjustment and see what that does for us. Take our pin. Do not lose this pin. Thanks to Knock On Archery for providing us with this nice color that everybody can see. So we're going to move this moon from the 3 setting. We're going to move that to a 2 setting. Okay? Same thing applies. You put your pin back in the hole. This set screw goes in the hole below it. Don't ever lose the set screw because I'm not sure what size the actual threads are. You probably not get another one. So let's tighten that back down, and then we'll come in and I like a starting point of this pillar right here being perfectly aligned with the neck, so straight up and down. That's kind of a good reference. You don't want it over here, you don't want it over there. You want it straight up and down to get the most average adjustment you can get. So to start with, that's a good base starting point, and then you can adjust it from there. My recommendation is go through each one, set them as cold as you can, try them, and then each one you want, you go a little hotter until you find the perfect combo of click and fire. So now we're going to set this, go into anchor. See that? Fire with no click. So that was your hottest setting. That's people that don't like a click. You animals out there that don't like to have a thought process and going in. So we'll come into anchor again. I'll go through slow-mo here. See? There's no click on this one. So the number 2...
There's no warning.
The number 2, ooh, there is no click at all. Actually, there is a click, but the click is so close together on the fire to click on this one that when you go to anchor, it's click fire. So how a hinge, there's different ways to set it up, and there is a people that like one way or the other. Me personally, I really like to come into anchor, settle, get my pin set. As soon as my pin hits the target and my bow gets pushed towards the target and gets settled, I go click. Okay, that means my whole shot, I'm in the shot process. That's what I'm doing. So from there, all I've got to do is push and pull and rotate a little bit, and then it fires. Sometimes you get into your shot where you go, and this is where your target panic starts to happen if you're using one of these. You get in there and you're pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling, and then it clicks and then it fires. So there's too much anxiety for some people in that shot. There's just too much going on. So I like to have a little beginning. It's kind of like closing a door. Okay, you know the door is shut, and then you turn around and you turn the lock, and that lock is basically you're done. That's everything's closed. That's your shot process. So that's kind of where I like to set my hinge. So let's move this back so we can kind of not scare ourselves here. So again, do your lock screw, take your 3/64, take that out, drop your pin out, and again the pin goes here, and the threaded hole for that lock nut is right there. That's your pin goes right here and your threaded hole is right here. It's pretty self-explanatory on these. This one right here will take the hook out. Don't want to mess with that. So we're going to rotate this to the 0, and we'll play with that and see what that is, because I'm not sure if I've ever actually put it on that adjustment. And again, guys, they are small parts. Don't lose them. The amount of times I have shot things across this floor, probably would not care to know. Okay, so we're going to see what that one is. Again, so that one is, sometimes what I like to do is go through that process. So that already tells me that that is a really long click and a short fire. There's a click. That's way too long. Okay. So that is extremely long. If you want to sit there and blank bail with that all day long, you can. The biggest thing about that is it's just too cold. I would never hunt with that setting. Target-wise, you could definitely run it. So that is the position with no hash marks. There are 0 hash marks on that post that's sticking up. So the one I like to run is the 3. That gives me the best setting front to back on what I like. So,
on this release.
On this release. Now there is other ones, but when we're just going over the TRUFIRE today, and we're showing you the setup process and how the moons work and how your adjustment works. So again, if you, whatever setting you have this on, your 4-way cross, your moon, whatever you want to call it, the farther, when you have it locked up, the farther forward it is towards your thumb or your forefinger, the colder it is. The farther towards your pinky and your ring finger it is, the hotter it's going to be. So that just explains like the time between click and fire, and then each hash mark on each post is a different setting of hotness. So you can finitely kind of range in between those settings, and so it's pretty customizable for what you really want to do with the release. I really like this release because number one, this is a heavy metal, and see there's a good example. I screwed it out too fast, and there's a magnet on the back of that, so it stuck to it. So that proves that there is a nice little magnet on the back side of this that locks that jaw open. So again, do not lose that. Drop your pin out. Take your set screw. Sorry for the lighting, folks. Take that, just about a quarter turn is all I need, and you can see this rotates. So I'm going to move it back to the 3. If you can see, there's 3 lines on that. It's kind of hard to see with the metal on metal, but there's 3 lines on that, and I like to have it almost, like I said, straight up vertical. So then I'm going to tighten my set screw so that sear, that moon, does not move on me. So that's going to lock your moon down when you tighten these set screws. And then again, you got your pin, and then I like to go in and make sure my pin is, or my set screw is locked to my release. Sometimes doing it one-handed is harder than you think. And then I go in here and set this. So now that is exactly how I like to fire mine. So I'm going to play a little bit with the hotness of the fire. See, there's a click right there. So if I was at full draw, you come in, anchor, click, and then you just keep pushing and pulling, and it fires. Now that's a little hot for my fire. My firing rate at the just whatever I pull, 2 to 3 seconds is what I like to show. Just, I mean, consistent pulling, rotation. Again, we're talking about rotation through your hands. So we're talking about this right here. A lot of guys like to come in super hot with their with their forefinger and take pressure off. Now see, when I do that, watch my pinky. There's too much tension in your hand. So you want to have all your fingers engaged, and again, when you set it in your hand's straight. You want to make a claw come in so your back of your hand is straight up. If you can see that with my white shirt, your back of your hand is straight. You don't want it like this, you don't want it like this. Your back of your hand, your release, is everything straight. So when you come into anchor, there's a nice flat spot right on the jaw for you to rest it on. Then all you got to do is push and pull and rotate it, and it'll break. If you don't have that, your consistency goes down exponentially because of the tension. And a lot of guys, you know, like when they're shooting a button, they'll have their ring finger out here, or they'll come in, like I said, they'll come in super heavy on their forefinger and stick these out here, afraid to make it go off. Sometimes the best thing for that is just get a shot trainer, something you can draw with, a really lightweight bow. We have this little bear bow back here that we always play with for like 30 pounds with. So we can really get a feel for something like this that we don't know what it's going to do. But you always want to have consistent pressure, so you come in and you want to have your hand relaxed. So you come in, anchor, click, and you just watch my hand, like my thumb's down here, everything's relaxed, and it breaks. Now, like I said, that's a little short fire for me, so I would actually tip it forward and make it a little, I would make it a little bit colder. But that's just personal preference. Now, I find that when I go to a button after shooting this, I can take a button that has a significantly heavier force to the trigger, and I can make it go off really well. So that is just from consistent back pressure, pushing and pulling, and applying pressure to that release. Again, and we won't go over it too much, we'll make a separate video on how to fire a button to match this exact release, and so you can just hit in the same hole. So adjustments, again, we'll go back over this. You can unscrew this, it's just one piece. They are pretty interchangeable. I think they do make some other customizable stuff where you can use different screws, you can use different thumb pegs, you can do whatever you want. They do a screw in each one. They are just a, let me do it like this. They're just basically a threaded hole with a rod. There's 3 adjustments. I like the farthest back one. You just hand tighten them. Nothing moves. I do believe, and I haven't tried it yet, I am a 3-finger guy. I've never run much for 4 fingers, never really thought too much. I like to relax my pinky and pretend like I've got a ping pong ball or something in here, just because you don't want that tension. So I never run a 4-finger, but you can get these adjustable attachments. They do make a 4th finger attachment for it. There's a spot for your lanyard if you want to hunt with that. I know guys like, you know, Joel Burham, Levi Morgan, they all run a lanyard on theirs. Sometimes I'm not a lanyard guy. I should be, because when you're in a stand, you're moving around, the last thing you want to be doing is grabbing for a release and inevitably dropping it out of the stand. So in that case, what I always do, and I will advise everybody to do this, buy 2 of them. 2 is one, 1 is none. If you have one break, if you lose a pin, if you drop it out of the tree stand, you know, whatever you do, we always have 2 of the same releases running around. So like if Katie wants to shoot the one I have and we're both hunting with the same release, at least in the event if we're out spot and stalk antelope or in a tree stand together filming, I have one, because if hers goes down, she can use mine. We usually use ours the same and have them set up the same, so you know that's pretty convenient. But 2 of them is way better than 1. So it's got a lot of nice weight. It's a heavy metal, so that's why we kind of like to run. I like to run the heavier metal ones. They do make in their buttons. Let me see if I can find one here. So this is their, and like I said, we'll go over this in a different video, but this is their heavy metal button. They're mirrored after pretty much the same. I mean, their jaws are pretty close as far as length. You shouldn't run any draw length adjustment difference. I mean, they're pretty close. If I can get it lined up there, they're really close with their finger beds. Everything lines up the same. So that's the tricky part about hinges, buttons, draw lengths. You know, there's a lot of different things out there where you can get into one that feels really, really good, and the next one you get maybe a 1/4 inch too long, and now everything changes. Your peep height feels different, your anchor point feels different. So typically, with good practice, you can get along with anything, but these 2 are, this is the TRUFIRE Synapse, and we're going to make a separate video about that again, but this is the one that we'll go over about how to shoot, just because it mirrors this exact release pretty well on how to shoot both consistently in the same spot. But for right now, I'm really impressed with this release. Like I said, it feels really good. I like the weight. The ring finger, you can see it's a little thicker at the top for your 4-finger, and then it tapers down a little bit narrower, because you know most of the time our fingers get smaller as they go down our hand. So I typically like that feel. My pinky generally when I draw back is riding on the back of that, and then when I come into anchor, it drops behind and it relaxes, and my thumb's just down here like this. So all your peg is going to be is just a balance point when you're at full draw. Otherwise, you can use one without it. You don't have to use the peg. You can actually, it's very ergonomically made to rest your thumb across the top of this. It's got that little cutout right there. That feels really good. So nobody, if you've never shot a hinge before, this is a really good to start, because you can set it extremely cold, and you can set it to where you can really get used to it. And as you get used to it, set it a little bit hotter, a little bit hotter, a little bit hotter, until finally you get the feel you want. It's great for target panic, blank bail a lot. It actually fixed, a hinge fixed my target panic. I had the bad stuff where you'd get close to target, wham, and you'd punch it, and my groups were this big. And now we're getting arrows in at the caribou at 111 at Toro Larcher Challenge. So these things are incredibly good. Can't say enough good things about them. Follow, like, subscribe on YouTube. We're going to get a bunch more videos made. We're going to make another one on this. We are going to be in Colorado this weekend, Utah the next weekend. Tons of content coming out. We have tons of stuff to do. Stay tuned. Thank you all for watching. On to the next one.